Hey, good morning.
Hey Jay, can you hear us now?
Yeah,
Okay.
loud and clear with no echoes whatsoever. We nailed it.
You guys want to be in charge of this or I'm gonna take time? I'm talking about it. In and out, but yes. So yeah, you're good to go.
The film is sold out. However, like Mary said, just go and then she's gonna do it. Like, what can I do?
Well, you're supposed to check in at the,
And I have that.
Again, you guys ready to go?
We're ready.
Okay.
Are we full on live on YouTube? and all the
I
things?
know, it's cool that it's sold out that.
I almost started.
Yeah, now we're recording on 11.
Thank you so much for your help. All right, good morning, everyone. It's 9 a.m. today, September 26, 2025. This is the regular meeting of the Grand County Budget Advisory Board. Those board members in attendance today are myself, Wojtek. We have Martinez, Greenfield, Padine, Lindsay, and Throgmorton in attendance virtually. Currently not present is Treasurer Kaufman from the board. And we also have here some county staff that are set to present their budget presentation at this meeting as laid out in the agenda. So we'll go ahead and start with action items. First action item, or first and only actual action item that we have on the agenda is approval of minutes for September 19th, 2025. I would entertain suggestions or comments regarding those draft minutes or a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Winfield, a second by the dean. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Hi.
Is that aye, Chantal? Yeah, I'm sorry. The motion passes unanimously 6-0.
Gabe,
And
before
we-
we get into it, I don't have video. Do we have video on YouTube as well or on the Zoom?
So you're not seeing my screen with the agenda lit
Seeing the screen, not seeing if the owl is on.
okay.
Oh, we don't have the camera turned on.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yep.
No, it should be good.
Is it in?
Just give us a thumbs up.
There we are.
Thank you, AJ.
Looking good. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna move right ahead here with the first budget presentation of the Sand Flats Recreation Area. And we have here with us today Director Andrea Brand. She's got a narrative prepared. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the budget spreadsheet as reflected in the agenda packet. There's also a supplemental document that Andrea has prepared in order to best explain these budget line items. That document is also included in the packet. I'm gonna see if I can blow this up and Andrea, take it away. Thanks for being here.
okay, thank you.
Can I ask a real quick question first? It shows Fund 70 in the packet, but all of the printouts that we have, unless I'm missing them there, I don't see that one.
And
Is Fund 70 correct? Cause I've got a 10, a 47 and several tens actually.
Um,
And if we didn't print that one out, I'm fine with that.
no, we have Fund 70.
Do you, I think that, could I take yours?
No, it's okay. I just don't have a 70, that's all. So I was wondering if maybe it was one of these others, but
Oh,
I can follow along here. It's totally fine.
I didn't realize, I just like, oh,
Oh, no.
yeah, cause I,
No, I had a whole pile of them here, so I just.
you know, here, I've already put notes on it.
No,
Should I,
it's okay. I'll follow along here. I'm fine. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't mistaken, that's all.
no, it was me.
before you start, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just a quick clarification. I'm just on cruise control a little bit this morning with some nerves. But Jail Commander Shan Hackwell, who's also a Budget Advisory Board member, isn't present today. So just as for roll call, Mr. Hackwell and Mr. Kaufman are currently not present. And the minutes should reflect that the approval of minutes that we just passed, passed 5-0, not 6-0. Are there any objections to that correction being reflected? Thank you all.
Here, I'll give it back to you.
Oh, it's okay, it's okay, I have it here,
Oh, okay.
I just was wondering if there was a mistake in the paperwork, that's all.
No. Okay, I guess. All right, so, mainly, I guess, I'll just point out things that might be different from, from 2025 budget. If that seems like a good way to go, that's where I have the notes here in the spreadsheet. So, let's see, so employee overtime, I believe, is the same. Actually, I didn't double check that one. No, we have it going up 500 there. We try, we do our best to keep that below, but, sometimes, it's good to have a little cushion in there in case we need it. Usually what happens with the overtime is when, an employee needs to stay after because of problems with the reservation campsites or something, because people come in later. So that's something that happens. The Adobe Suite subscription, Max and Aceros told me to put a 5% cushion on that for this year. And then we also have the Dark Sky annual membership, which is just like $34. So that's on there as well. And we need to have that if we're gonna apply for our dark sky status. So going down, the other items, line items, 3 of them going down are all gonna be the same. And then I have brought the budget up for the vehicles up a little bit from 8,000 to 10,000. Again, we have 5 trucks, 1 e-bike and 3 UTVs. So
Can you say that one more time, real quick?
our vehicles.
Yeah.
We have 5 trucks, 2 of them that Sam Flats owns or whatever, our
Uh-huh.
department, 3 of them that are leased.
Okay.
And then 3 UTVs, 1 for maintenance, 2 for patrol, and we have 1 e-bike.
Cool.
So, some years I need to get tires, those UTVs, we really keep up on the maintenance with those because, it's so important.
Yeah.
So, we need to have a little bit more in that account, for that. Let's see, the utilities, we split the power and the, Moab City bill with GCAT because they're in the same building as us. So that's why you're seeing it actually, going down from last year because of us splitting it. But then also it's, up a little bit as a cushion in case the city raises their rates. And Rocky Mountain Power, I was told by the clerk's office that Rocky Mountain Power might be raising their rates. Okay, so contract professional services, there's a few things in here. We've been running our videos on Channel 6 TV. And so that's $200 a month per video. I'm hoping to run 4 next year. This year, we're just running 3. Because we've come out with our dark sky video, it'd be nice to put on there, or another one. And what's the other thing on here? Let's see. We also have what I wanted to say, and then also we hope to make another film next year, another video next year, but we have a lot of interest from CNHA and even the BLM might be able to find some funds. So I'm budgeting about 10,000 again for that, but if we partner, it might end up only 5,000.
Is that the Juniper video?
Well, the Juniper video we're doing this fall.
Okay, I didn't know if this
So
was
one,
separate.
yeah, 2 separate.
Okay.
I guess I have a question maybe for you, Brian. Is it feasible that TRT can pay for any of this?
We went and asked,
Okay.
right, and so we've already
great.
kind of we've looked into it and we're not exactly sure.
Okay. I
Once again,
appreciate
it would
that.
just, it'd have to depend on, is there a marketing plan basically behind this? Like, is
Okay.
the primary intent for this to bring people from the outside in,
Right,
right? Or is the primary intent for this to be educational and
Right.
mitigation?
okay, thank you.
The best that I would say is if it comes down to something that we could look into is the content, right, is one thing that I think that gets overlooked. It's probably one of the bigger portions of the expense. And if that content was shared with the Moab Office of Tourism, we might be able to at least kind of take out some of those content expenses, right? So basically, because I mean, there's gonna be a lot of drone photography and things like that you're gonna be using. which is really your promotional part, right?
Yes,
Which is
yeah.
you showing how beautiful the area is. And if the Moab Office of Tourism could take those assets right there, basically, that, I think that would fall under
Okay.
promotion.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we have partnered many times in the past, like the Dark Sky one that we did last
Okay.
fall. They paid for the editing
Okay.
of the video.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, you know, we're paying for, you know, hopefully 4 videos to be on channel 6 now. Years ago, or even just 2 years ago, TRT did pay, we had 8 videos running, and Samflex paid for 3, and TRT paid for 5 of those. And a few years before that, Travel Council paid for all of the videos to be on channel 6 TV. But then when they got some funding changes, whatever it was, I picked up the ball because I wanted to make sure that our UTV video was getting out there to educate those new users and so on.
And I would probably say for that right there, that would probably still fall under your purview. Because I mean, with the channel 6 is more for people here already,
Right.
right? So it doesn't fall under that,
Well-
bringing people on from the outside in.
It is in Emory and San Juan County as well.
Okay. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
it's not just Grand County, so it's over 5,500 accommodations in between those 3 counties
Got it.
that are signed up for Emory Telecom to watch those. And then the other thing, the other factor in this is the engineering for what it's called the build grant now for paving the Sand Flats Road, if we proceed with that, with, you know, you folks' permission this fall. Then depending on whether we need to reach out to Jones and DeMille again, or another engineering firm, that would happen either in November, December of this year, which we did budget for, or if it might not happen until January. The grant is due in the end of January, and then there's some other grants that are due later than that. So it's just kind of like I've cushioned it kind of on both ends, essentially, and we'll see where it ends up, but it will end up less depending on where it, you know, on one of the years. Okay, what else? Lease payment is the same. We're not gonna, according to Jason, at the fleet manager, we're not gonna freight out any of our vehicles till 2027. Let's see. So contract services, the toilets, Zunick Brothers, is a sole source provider. And, they haven't raised their pumping costs in about 4 years, so they're gonna need to raise them a little bit for the toilets. Plus, we're also waiting to see if the city's gonna raise their costs for that waste to be processed. So, so I have a cushion in there for that. Let's see, what's the next one? Search and rescue, so, I changed it this time in that before what we would do is we would just look at the data for the previous year. For example, in for my 2025 budget, I was actually looking at 2023. Cause you know, you do your, so this time, because search and rescue has been really good at giving us the information like every month. So I went back 12 months. So I did, you know, January of 2025 to August of 2025, and I did September of 2024 to December of 2024. So I think at least it's closer to what's going on with what their expenses are. So it came up just under 15,000. So, and we'll see. I mean, next year, I mean, I put 15 there, and that's what my stewardship committee said. But the previous year, doing it the old way anyway, was only 6,000, and we gave them 10,000. The other thing that's brought it up is they came up with an amount per hour for their UTVs. So they're charging us, I mean, essentially $50 an hour for the UTV use. So that's why it's up, but I mean, that's fine. We're thrilled they're there, of course. We need them. Okay, the other thing is I have the Slick Rock trail dumping fees at 27,500 for this year, and I put it up to 32,000 just because we don't know what's gonna happen. I talked to Solid Waste, and I mean, it might not cost that much, but they said that they won't know till early November if they're gonna raise their costs. Okay, so printing and publishing, I'm keeping the same because I still have brochures stocked up for our main brochures. A little bit extra in supplies and equipment, because we were thinking about doing some wooden fencing in some of our campgrounds to protect our trees. Okay, the other big one on here is on the third page. So this project, the capital improvement project includes crack sealing, seal coating and striping, slick rock and Hell's Revenge. It's time to do those again. And so 50,000 for that. And then the other project is a fencing project to protect the dinosaur tracks that are out there. And so probably estimate a little over, but I'm not sure yet with everything. So I put it at 75,000. Just to see how it pans out.
On capital improvement.
Yeah, so it's 125,000 total.
Okay,
50,000 is for the
Got it.
parking lots.
okay, good.
And 75,000 is for that. It depends what we do. If we end up with that metal buck and rail system throughout, that's pretty pricey.
I just have a question. So from the 2025 budget, it was at 310,000.
Okay,
And then there was only 33 spent this year.
great question.
Yeah.
So what we did is we put 250,000 in there for the last 2 years, saying if we got the raise grant, we had some seed money in there ready to,
And that's for the paving?
yes.
Okay, perfect.
But we didn't get it the last 2 years. And so I just thought, let's keep it in the fund balance. And then if we do get it, I can come before you and we can move it
And so
out.
that's not included in 2026 then?
No,
Okay, the seed.
I just thought we'd leave it in our fund balance and see what happens. If that's all right with you folks, I just.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to understand. it.
No, that's
all.
perfect question. I'm sorry, I didn't remember to point that out.
You know, and that type of expenditure would have to go through an approval process either way, and we would amend the budget accordingly, even if it weren't included in the initial budget, but I think it's good thinking.
Yeah, it would be a process, so. And then the last thing that's different from from 2025 is we 3,000 instead of 2,000 for our inventory office, and that's because we may need to replace our heating cooling unit at the booth, and I got a quote on that, so that's getting pretty old, probably a decade old, still working, but they did maintenance on it, so maybe it'll stay working, but if it doesn't, we'll be ready.
So right here, is this meant to say 2026? The highlighted, because it says.
I didn't-
20.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault.
Oh, that's okay. I was just making sure. I wasn't trying to
I have
pick
to
on
change
anybody.
that.
I was just like.
I have to
making sure.
change that on
Okay,
everyone,
cool.
but yeah, for the record, for anyone
Thank you.
observing here, it says on this highlighted line, 2025 budget versus 2024, that's meant to say proposed 2026 budget versus the 2025 budget. I apologize for that error. I had a question, or I had just a comment question. As it describes in the narrative here, Sam Flats operates as an enterprise fund. Which means that it basically is it's a self-funded park program department, however we want to classify it.
Yeah.
And you know, in my 5 years here at the county, you know, I've always observed a really run park, so I appreciate that, Andrea. And I would say, I just had a question about if you've made some any projections on revenues that you might see next year and how that relates to your proposed budgeted expenditures.
Well, I just kind of looked at, the end of this year, which was that we should bring in about, well, right now we're down 1.5% through, August. But, it's still early. And as I said at the annual report, when I gave that, it was really all in May. And we think it's just because it got hot quicker. And, so I think we're gonna bring in another 285,000 or so that's what we brought in, a little bit less than what we brought in I said we brought in 288,000 last year between now and the end of the year, but I just went ahead and said, 285,000 or whatever.
And where would that bring us year end altogether? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I should have looked at that one. Under 800,000,
Okay.
probably 790 or something, hopefully.
And so, as related to what is being shown here,
Oh.
proposed budgeted expenditure of 1.07 million. We can sort of, easily assert that, the budgeted expenditures over what you might be expecting to collect in revenues is related to, capital, largely related to capital expenditures that you're planning and money that you have saved away to address those capital expenditures.
Right, right, exactly. We, when you see the budget go over what we're bringing in that year, it's usually because we've done some capital improvements
Yeah.
and we have that fund balance to draw from.
Right, and so you're basically looking at, revenues being flat. I mean, 1.5 or that's what you're predicting?
Well, no, I mean, I actually, when I just said to you 285,000, I was really looking at what we brought in last year. So we'll see,
Okay.
if we do that. I don't know. Because I haven't put in September yet, we're not at the end of September, but 1.5% is nothing.
No, and I'm looking at it, because I'm looking at the 2025 opening budget, and then the 2026 budget, taking, not counting the grants right there. And it looks like you're like 30,000 under what you would have had last year minus the grants. But if your revenues are flat, I mean, that would make sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, hopefully we'll have good weather and.
yeah, of course. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
but-
we're all hoping, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, thanks for pointing
Yeah,
that
no, I just
out.
wanted to make sure that I'm understanding it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have an odd question. I don't know if it's odd, but I think I might have. How long have you been in this position?
This is my 21st
That's what
year.
I thought. I thought you were over 20 years. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I was one
It's
of
not
the,
your first rodeo.
no. No, and I was one of the first seasonals hired at Sam Flats, and then was in charge of the high school kids after a year or two, and then became the manager, so.
That's cool. That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah, so I have to make sure I have really good information for whoever follows me.
Yeah. I know.
think I do, but.
I know, I've been trying to put together like a manual type program, like, okay, yeah, someday I need to leave, and yeah, passing that information.
Right, right, but not now.
I know, I feel sick.
Remember what you,
Yeah, I'm just curious what we have in that fund balance.
It's, well, right now it's about 646.
And if that
Is in our-
grant were available, how much would you need?
Well,
Is it's a match that you're saving for, correct, or no?
this was really a Bill Jackson thing. He was gonna put in, the last 2 years, I believe he had 250,000, I had 250,000
Yeah.
kind of set aside. Theoretically to do that. He just wanted it to show that we were serious.
Sure. Yeah,
So,
no,
it
definitely.
wasn't actually money, like if we put it in up front, we should be getting it back. But it just wanted to show that we're serious about
Yeah.
it. And even though I haven't put in the budget this year, we can, if they ask, we're like, well, we have this fund balance, we have money, we can transfer it. Fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
and your stewardship committee, given that it has all the relevant stakeholders with regards to the management and the collaboration, do you have any concerns about your committee approving or not this proposed budget as it's currently?
They've approved all
They have,
this.
okay,
Yes,
sorry.
yes,
Yeah.
at our September 11th meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Andrea?
Good job.
Wonderful, thank you
Right,
very much.
thank you.
All right, let's see. Agenda here, next up, we have the Grand Center. And so I welcome here Yordi Eastwood, Loretta Eastwood, the Director of the Grand Center. Let me get your spreadsheet up here and zoomed in. This is a general fund department that's broken up into two different categories within the general fund. So it can be observed on this spreadsheet that there are account lines starting in 104311, and there's another set of account lines starting in 104563. That latter is titled Community Center. The former is titled Senior Center. Senior Citizens, I think is what the category is called. And we split that up for tracking purposes as it relates to our relationship with the Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments and what we're required to report to them, especially as it relates to senior center services. Did you say that that's accurate?
They run a nutrition program and socialization. They are, so under those things, only certain things can be added in, like anything to the building. The nutrition program will not accept. So that's why you have the senior center and the senior, or the community center. And even our labor's cut up between those two. Like maintenance and the facility coordinators under the community center, the cook, or the kitchen manager, me, the bus driver and the home delivery driver. That's approved by the state nutrition. So
Okay,
that's
and
kind of how it is. But
maybe after we finish going through the proposed 2026 budget, we can talk a little bit more about the funding mechanisms associated with the. And how long have you been the director
I
of the
know.
Grant Center?
I think 3 years.
3 years.
Thank
Awesome. Happy to have you. Well,
you.
yeah, so we have you up here, starting with the 104311, the senior citizens budget category. Yeah, take it away here.
I tried not to ask for anything this year, so I tried to cut everything because there's certain things that I couldn't cut. So what I could cut, I tried to cut the 5%. So because you couldn't cut the leasing, the money we send to CERTA, to Southeastern Utah. And staffing, so kind of dropped most of my budget down. Some of it I couldn't, like, the office expense and supplies, you know, you have Benco alarms, state fire, those things have to be paid. Also, I did cut down the budget for travel. We did not have enough seniors registered to do the trip to Santa Fe this fall, but we hope to reschedule it for the spring. So I did drop it down to 1,500 from 27. And I take 2 trips a year. Okay, take 2, but one of the state pays for, to conferences and training in Salt Lake. So I left enough for that. Last year, we did go over budget on the equipment maintenance, which is putting new tires on one of the vehicles. But hopefully, we won't have to do that. Most of them are pretty new. The vehicles are. So,
Speaking of vehicles, how has the new bus been working out?
I like it.
Yeah,
Some of the seniors thought we're gonna have to do some adjusting because the seats are kind of close together.
Mhm.
But we'll work with. I can't think of his name, Jason of the state road center, the road department. So we're gonna work with him on a few little tweaks.
yeah,
So
great.
that the seniors can bring back.
You mind if I ask you a question about your salaries? So for 25, you had it at 383, and then 26, you have it at 186. Is that right? Am I wrong?
Can I, yeah, it's split up.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm sorry.
I'm
that-
sorry, yeah.
That
Okay,
it
gotcha.
isn't very clear.
Okay,
Um,
I see. So you have it split, okay, okay,
It wasn't on last year's budget.
okay.
I mean, it was,
So it's pretty.
how the
stacked.
money was spent.
Okay,
It's pretty static.
Okay. that's cool.
I
No,
think-
I was just a little confused by that first line item.
I think that requires some clarification on my end, so
Okay.
I'll offer some follow-up to make sure that that piece makes sense
Okay, cool.
in what
Thank
reflects
you.
here in the record.
Thank you, okay.
Okay, and the only other, thing that I seen was under the fuel. CERTA, which is Southeastern Utah, okay. Aging Services, they pay for fuel in the home delivery trucks, and we pay for fuel in the bus that picks people up. So we didn't bill CERTA for, the home delivery trucks on their fuel. So that's how come we're over budget on that, so.
Great.
Great.
Thank you. Just for the record, 9:28 AM, Board Member Kaufman entered the meeting. Sorry to interrupt.
Can I ask you a question on your vehicle lease payment, Yordi?
Mhm.
It says senior bus and home delivery truck. I thought that we paid cash for the new bus, or is this?
Okay, this is the old one.
Oh, this is the old one,
Yeah, we paid cash for the, van,
the van, okay.
and, we have the bus, it's been there, what, 2, 3 years?
Yeah.
And it's actually under leasing, and then both home delivery trucks are leased.
And so the bus that this is, do we have that on lease then,
Yes,
rather than owning it?
yes,
Okay,
as I understand. Now, the
Yeah.
van is, we paid cash for.
that's what I saw.
And the van that was paid with cash, that was using what we call senior citizen project funds, which is basically the lunch fees that that you charge you know, very reasonably, but there had been a buildup of those funds. And we are now administering those funds rather than the association. And they deemed that it would be an allowable expenditure for a new van,
Yes, they did.
for that purpose, to pay cash on that vehicle.
Yes, they did. I did not, I mean, I don't need cell-phone allowance, so I took that off. I was just trying to, because it's a big budget, and if you're cutting 5% of the whole thing, it's a lot of money, and I couldn't cut staff or anything.
But do you use your cell phone for business?
Yes.
Then you should get an allowance.
Well,
Well, you should get an allowance. That's my opinion. I would add that back. That's my opinion.
I mean, we do, think about my cell phone number for renters and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and I can adjust
Yeah,
the
we
temperature.
need to do that back in, so I get
All
that.
that.
And add that to the record, uniformity is requested as it relates to the application of the cell phone allowance.
Thank you.
Okay. I was just trying to cut.
I know.
So I did take the or the special department supplies, which just basically pays for our bingo prizes, party favors. We give what party favors out 5 times a year for certain holidays. And they usually have treats too. And also crafts and decorative items came out of the special department supplies, and I dropped it down from 2,000 to 1,500. I think that puts us over. We didn't really ask for anything for special capital improvements or equipment under the senior center. I did drop training down. And I'm not sure why we had it, well, it's been at 2,000 for a while. But we really haven't spent a lot of money that pays for, because CERTA pays for some of the training that we did, the first aid and things like that. So I just put this down for training for food handlers permit. We have to have the kitchen manager has to have a serve safe certificate. It's a little more than food handlers. So I did include that, but I did cut it down quite a bit. And does that get me out of the senior center, moving on to the community center?
And just one thing, so there's this line item for contribution to CERTA for cooks' wages. Can you just remind us, was that a portion of the cook's wages?
That is a portion of the cook's wages. I have raised it up because the county took on more of the cook's wages when we couldn't find a cook for the $16 that CERTA wanted to pay. So the county took on that. And I have every year kind of put in for a raise for the cooks because everybody at the center let them get a yearly raise, cost of living. I did talk to Kim Wells with CERTA, and she said that, actually I said, could you tell me how much a raise would cost over the year? And she said that they'd take the 113,000, but they would cover the raise for 2026 for the cooks.
Good.
Can I put you on the spot to offer kind of an average of how many heads you serve a day or total head count over the year? It's okay if you don't have that
No.
information.
We, home delivery serves about somewhere between 75, I think right now we're at 82. It has we add more people, but you also lose more people. So, that's kind of our average is between 75 and 80
A day?
a day.
Wow, that's substantial.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it matters to some seniors and it is. Because your seniors are homebound, the ones we do home delivery to, we do treats for them and stuff like that. But sometimes our home delivery drivers, the only people they see it in a day. So, you know, it is important to those people, and she does a lot. The home delivery driver is just great.
And then just coming into the center for lunches, is that?
Well, it depends on the day.
Sure.
We're average in about 60. It'll go up to
Wow.
72, but soup day, it usually drops down to about 50. But they will not let us take soup day away. So we try. So, it is a suggested donation for lunch at the center. You might have to raise the suggested donation as we're the lowest in the state. So, and everybody else raised theirs. I just didn't, because we had this access. I didn't raise ours, but we should look into doing that.
Let the record reflect that soup day will stay in the budget.
Yeah. It is, okay, because they get extra. Because, yeah, a lot of times that's the only thing they have to eat too. And so on soup day, they usually get to take soup, they'll bring containers and take a little bit of soup home for the evening.
That's awesome.
Whatever.
Yeah, thank you.
Even people that cannot go up there to get their lunch, that we serve their lunch to, they open that that window and they race up there to get seconds, so. Did that answer your question?
I'm satisfied. Absolutely. Thank you for, I think that context is really shows the power and the importance of the services that you provide.
Thank
So we have the next category, community center.
Again, I did not touch the staffing. You have three, the facility coordinator and both maintenance people. They've been, Chris has been there, 3 years, and both Joe's been there longer than I have, which is 14 years. So I did not touch that. Office supplies, the office supplies on this one is Emory Telecom, so I couldn't drop that down. Sad to say, we are an older vehicle, an older facility, and we do have HVAC problems. I think we've done a lot, so we've been over budget for a little while on HVAC and kitchen equipment. CERTA does not pay for any part of what's on the building or in the facility, so the building and grounds maintenance is usually just state fire, electrical, plumbing, and sound system. I dropped it a little bit, and hopefully we don't have some major plumbing problems. We seemed to this last year, we had trouble with the hot water heater, and Frankfurt Hero took a lot of money. So,
Can I ask you a question about the Emory Telecom line? Office supplies and expenses. I know that at one time we were gonna have Matt try and get better service down there. Has that, because the last two meetings that I've attended, it's still pretty bad in that end room out there.
it is.
What,
He keeps telling me that he'll upgrade it, so that's.
but he hasn't yet,
No,
is
he hasn't.
what you're saying, okay.
He did at one time come in and do a second Wi-Fi connection.
Right,
But in certain rooms, it just doesn't work.
yeah,
So it's pretty good in the back conference room. It's spotty in room 3 and the library and our offices, we get no Wi-Fi connection at all.
I just know that the BLM and a lot of different people use those rooms
They
down
do.
there, and there's nothing but complaints when I attend a meeting down
Yes.
there, so.
You know. Wish I could, talk him.
Nope,
into
that's
it.
good, I just was
So,
curious if anybody followed up on it.
I think I dropped, special department out of the community center, which is your cleaning supplies, batteries, paint, light bulbs. We got all new light bulbs this last year. So that should be good for a while. And then I didn't charge anything, I didn't put anything on the budget, but we do need to consider that the Grand Center is an older vehicle and, I don't know, I could call it a vehicle, an older facility, and we really need new carpeting, so.
Can you tell me how old the carpet is?
17 years.
17. Yeah.
And they're, you know, I mean, they clean it, shampoo it regularly, like once a month, but there are still some spots that are starting to look worn. So,
Thanks.
you know, I talked to Sean and he said somewhere between 17 and 20 years is usually when you replace carpet, so.
Thanks.
I also talked to Sean about needing more lighting in the back parking lot. And he suggested maybe some spotlights coming off of the building of the pavilion. And remembering the need for dark skies, but yeah, it's something we're gonna have to look at it,
But do we have seniors using that back parking lot?
yes.
Okay.
But we also have the public using that parking lot.
Sure.
But seniors, we utilize it during, our Christmas holiday party, which is usually about 120 people is what we serve. So you can't get that many cars in, so they use the back parking lot and there's just insufficient lighting back there. Usually if it's our party, we turn on the pavilion lights, which adds a little bit, but, we're like, okay, you take Elk Foundation or something. There's also drinking involved in some of that stuff. It's an era, yes, it is. My class reunion, there was, but so it's a little unsafe as well. And I think that.
I've been to quite a few of those. But I did not partake.
Is there a reason then that we're not putting some money towards both of those capital improvements and the capital equipment? I mean,
Well, I thought we could wait another year, and also I thought we were cutting budgets and not adding to budgets.
And
I think the carpet can wait.
one thing that I've been trying to sort of change about how we budget and spend for capital improvements that are in general fund departments is I'm trying to use the capital projects general fund for those expenditures. Only because they're a lot easier to track when all of those types of expenditures are in that fund. Whereas if they're happening piecemeal throughout different budget categories, it becomes hard to get a bigger picture of what we're spending on those capital improvements. So I think either way, I would recommend that it be pulled out of Fund 34. But I think it lends itself to a wider conversation that needs to be had about cataloging and listing our capital needs across county facilities.
well, I think it goes back to last meeting where we discussed the fact that we're continually depleting our capital fund budget, and we're not putting any money into it on a yearly basis. So if we're not gonna do it in the department, then we need to, as a commission, I guess, decide that we're gonna put basically money in the piggy bank on a regular basis for all of our building upkeep. And I don't know the number that was thrown around a time or two. I think Sean has 14 buildings that
Right.
require maintenance and upkeep, and I think we need to be planning for that long term.
Trish?
Yeah, that was, and you kind of stated that, but I'd just like to reiterate that I do think we should, from each department, get their capital needs, and we attempt to somewhat, prioritize them via department. So that we're, hitting the things of greatest need first.
Right. And it might not be a fancy flashy document that a consultant provides. I think all our departments are well capable of creating a little list.
Yes, exactly.
Us
No,
creating a master
that'd be
of all
great.
those things.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be great.
And then, which goes to a question I've been asking all departments, what other capital needs do you see in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years,
Correct.
that's a good question, because we're gonna have to replace some HVACs. I
Yeah.
think that's, has to do with Sean and, some of them had no damage, and so we're replacing the ones that are 17 years old. We have 3 HVAC units that are 17 years old. The others we've replaced through the years. But, we do need those last 3, and they did have hail damage, so we're kind of waiting on that. Ideally, I would like a light pole in the back parking lot, and I'd like to Okay, we can't pave the back parking lot. We can put gravel down, but the back parking lot, most of it, or not most of it, some of it is actually the special service district for the health, so that's theirs, and I could. Yeah, we can gravel it, put gravel down on it, but we can't replace it. Ideally not big issues, but, we do need some. Some of the things that are getting old, like blinds and stuff like that, need to be replaced. They're not big ticket items, but they do need to be replaced. So,
And so either which way that we go at it, Gabe, I would say that if we're gonna be having the departments do it, it should be a department, and then we should be figuring out a way that we're gonna be putting into basically a fund for that department. Or if it's going to be, coming out of the capital funds, then we should have a list of all of our, 5-year capital expenses that we're gonna have. And then we should be planning for that in our budget, that we should be putting away X amount of dollars so that our capital.
Yes,
set.
yeah. No, it's, I think I'll work with Chantel here and we'll, form a plan of attack and survey our department heads and, I mean, I think it should be reasonable to, with a couple weeks lead time to ask department heads to create a list for us and we can create a master list from that. And if we need to further analyze schedules for completion or distinguishing what items might be related to safety and therefore should be prioritized, all that type of analysis probably can come afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
and as long as we're talking major, we actually need a new sound system. We have a terrible sound system. It just gets lost up in the beams and stuff. So, I mean,
It's not just that back room when the BLM and the different people use it as well, and there, as soon as the heating or the cooling kicks on, you can't hear anybody that's talking.
Yeah.
When they're using the sound system, it overrides it and drowns it out, so.
yeah.
It is another one that should be added to your list for sure.
I think in this day and age, there's gotta be cost-effective solutions for speakers and things of that nature. But yeah, it always seems like these things come up so big ticket. I just wanted to make a comment that, following up on the discrepancy in salaries, between the 2025 opening budget and 2026 for the 4311 category. And I'm pretty, I think this is my error, but it does look like, given the bottom line here at 759 versus 1,087, and this budget being 69% under, that leads me to believe that there's some data missing here in the salary and benefits that's causing that steep decrease year over year. And so I'll just have to follow up. But I do think that what we're seeing, the 69% under last year's budget, or this current year's approved budget, appears to be missing information. So I just wanted to call that out.
Can I open a can of worms?
Please, you need a can opener?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so if my memory serves me, we used to use some TRT to help fund the Grant Center.
TRCCA.
Oh, TRCCA.
Mhm.
And are we no longer doing that? Or, sorry, if I just, just some
So
That's a.
education for me, please.
the answer to that question is that there potentially could be an avenue for using TRCCA funds to fund a portion of the Grand Center proportional to
Right.
it being used as a convention center.
Right, okay,
But rather than go through that process, we've decided rather to reallocate TRCCA funds that are more squarely and
Yeah.
more articulately
Okay.
qualified
Okay.
for the use of those funds.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
okay, yep,
And so
But
it's just kind of
feasibly-
easier to route them somewhere else,
I
because we
understand.
don't have to go through the trouble.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. But also the fact that she's now broken, in theory, her uses into a community center versus a senior center. Anyways, I just kind of wanted to bring that up, that we do know that it's used for a convention center in many cases, and we could probably quantify that with the amount of events that she holds. So it's just random thoughts.
I think it's a valid thing to keep in mind. I
Yeah.
will also say that, it's, the way that we rerouted those allocations still serves as a general fund offset. So
Okay.
it's
Okay, great.
kind of same.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, it was just really for my education. Yeah. Thank you.
Just further on that,
Yeah.
Trish. This year, there's no longer there's no longer a film rec and convention, right? So conventions have now moved under mitigation. Or
Okay,
they're also, I think they call them 3Bs. So basically 3Bs and your mitigation are gonna be under the same category right there.
okay,
So
okay, thank you.
if that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other question or comment for Yori? AJ or Chris? I don't want you to feel left out.
Good to hear. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm good, thanks.
Awesome.
That wasn't so bad.
Thanks so much, Yori.
Thank you, Yuri.
All right, and moving on here, we have the Old Spanish Trail Arena, otherwise known as OSTA. And here with us today is Angie Book. Hi, Angie.
Hello, everyone.
And Angie always does such a great job of providing ample detail built into the spreadsheet and narrative here. So without further ado, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Okay, so, let's see here. I will start with, what is the first thing?
Salaries,
Yeah.
which I'm gonna jump right in.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, you go first.
We've had this discussion many times that you need another staff member.
And my staff member that was budgeted for 2025, being able to hire that one back would be amazing.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
I just think, and I realize it'll probably put her over budget, but I do think it's something, or maybe you guys are just keeping a master list of the asks. I know that in the past, that's what we've done, just those additional asks from department heads. But I think we really need to think about adding another staff member to OSTA, especially, and I'll just state that I think the current commission has really pushed this idea of more events at OSTA. And it's been, which is like, yeah, more, but we can't keep adding events and not adding staff to staff those events. And that's just a general, and I think there's a lot of validity to that. We want more tourism, we want more events out there, but we can't ask that existing staff to work every single weekend and overtime and expect them to survive.
yeah.
I ran into Angie's husband last weekend, we were out shooting. And he said, try to get Angie to go elk hunting this year. And I said, I'll try, because she doesn't. Because she works every single weekend. And so I think that the commission in its entirety really needs to look at adding more staff. In the sense that we're pushing more events out there. So sorry, I know it's budget advisory, but I just, and I'd like
appreciate
that
that.
to be on record.
I appreciate that. And I'll talk about that in here, but my staff is extremely overwhelmed and
Yeah.
they're experiencing burnout and.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing burnout. I love my job. I love OSTA, but I feel it. My staff feels it. It's coming. Everybody's working really hard and it's not just the events. There's stuff that happens, emergencies happen. And we're there. We're there to open the doors, to take in the community, to take in emergency services. And water lines break, semis roll onto the property. Things happen and we're there to react and be available. So, yeah, we're there. And yeah, I did not get to go hunting, so. Amongst other things, but anyways, let's get to budget. So,
Just a real quick question before you go. Don't we include additional staff in an entire separate part of the budget process?
Correct, and personnel services just sent out a message to all countywide, requesting formal requests
Right,
for new
that's what I
positions.
was thinking.
And so, yeah, yes, that is true. Sorry to interrupt, Angie.
no, you're fine. So I didn't put any commentary there on that line because I left that number there that was provided by HR, and that number is for just the current 6 staff. So I haven't added any additional funding there for the additional maintenance person that we would like to request for. So going down to overtime, I kept that at the same as what we requested for 2025. We come close to that number every year and sometimes we go over. I know we're sitting right at that number right now. We might go over just even this weekend. Everyone's working this weekend. We have the stage going out, we have a barrel race going out. And then we still have the remainder of the fall events to get through. So I did pull money out of our general funds to try covering that, but again, that's money that's coming out of our maintenance fund that we're not able to use to cover overtime. But yeah, did you have a question?
Yeah, and maybe you covered this while I was blowing my nose real quick,
Uh,
but, did you get do you have an idea of what that additional staff member will cost?
I don't, it's
I can give that to you real quick, just a
okay.
And then, just while she's looking that up real quick, would that reduce that overtime?
Yeah, it will definitely help because I'll be able to alternate schedules.
It would help, or would that overtime basically go into that new staff member?
It will bring it, yeah, it will bring it down. It will help like keep us from going over.
From going over, but if we got it, basically my question is, if you added an additional staff member, you'd still have the 15.
Yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
I'll still need that.
I have a question for Tess. if
Yes,
that's possible.
please.
Or maybe, or you might not, sorry, I don't mean to disregard you. How do we do overtime? Did we get time and a half or is it just time?
It's time
Time and a
to,
half. Okay, good. Thank you. I just want to make sure that's the case. Awesome.
And
Thanks.
then in terms of the estimate that I came up with for a prospective new maintenance technician. If we were bringing them in at kind of an average step at our most popular, or how do I put it, our most commonly used healthcare plan would be roughly 104,000.
104.
104,000.
So that's with benefits and.
Full cost.
Full
Yep.
Okay.
Just for anyone watching on YouTube or watching back on this, that was Personnel Services Director Tess Barger speaking on that item. Thank you, Tess.
Thanks.
and then, so that overtime budget cuts in, not only do we figure that out for the year to cover events, but like I was saying before, emergencies that come up, we open up the facility for emergency services, for the community. When things happen on the property with water line breaks, storms. The list could go on and on with items that happen out there. It's a big facility and we've had our experiences of events, I'm gonna call it, that's happened out there. And then the next line, I'm gonna go down to benefits. This year, there was a large increase in just the benefits. It was $18,695 for an increase for us. That's a big hit on our budget, when we're looking at trying to cut back 5%. So that's hard, to have to cut out. So that was a big increase for us. I have. Sorry, I'm having to scroll over, subscriptions and membership. That $450 is for our league annual membership. And then I think the next one is advertising. That's $664. That covers some equine apps that we're part of and some social media postings that we do, and then our monthly Moab happenings. And the equine apps, they're they're similar to hotel apps, like, so when you would call it, like, go to Expedia to rent a hotel, it's the same thing for like traveling livestock. There are apps to figure out where you could book a stall for livestock as you're traveling.
And is the Moab Happenings, ad, is that for, to say what's happening, what events are going on? Or is it?
We do that, we trade up on that stuff, but it's also just advertising the arena, like book your event, that kind of stuff. Let's see, the next one. Is the travel. I just brought that one all the way down to 0, and this one hurts a lot.
I'm gonna disagree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'll just state, and I'm gonna be a little sassy here, there's other travel budgets that are quite lavish, so a minimum, I think we should have $2,000 in there. Cause I know I was thinking about one of your, you went to like a ground, you're talking about arena ground
Yeah.
training, you know, all those things that are needed for your staff.
Yeah.
So
and this one hurts, and I really wanna try figuring out how I could pull it from a different account to where we could still make it happen.
Add it back in.
Yeah, cause we are, so this last year, we completed the beginning footing academy and we
Thank you.
passed.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I
yeah,
wasn't sure what it was called.
Yeah, so this next year, we're able to attend, and you have to be accepted to be able to go to this academy. And it's actually in Tennessee, that's why it was a little more expensive. But it's a footed academy, and it not only gives accreditation to the employee, but it gives accreditation to the facility.
Yeah.
And so when event holders are looking at facilities to book their event, I mean, this is,
Mhm.
it's a perk to know that that facility is accredited with the league, and has this accreditation. So it's saying that
Right.
those employees in that arena is trained and they're professionals.
Right.
And it makes a difference when that event producer is choosing the facility that they're gonna book at.
So my recommendation is to put it back.
Yeah. Cause these professionals, I mean, these horses are,
Yeah,
they're expensive. They put a lot of money into these horses and they spend a lot of money to travel. And it's a big deal in that world.
Yeah.
So,
Let that be included in the formal comments. Thank you, Trish.
yeah. It's an honor to be able to have this recognition, and, the last time I looked, there's not an arena in Utah that holds this accreditation.
That's
So that would be myself and Greg both, if we pass.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cause it's testing and it's hands-on, like in a tractor.
Yeah.
So it's a paper test and then a driving test in a tractor,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
with implements.
And just a question on that then,
Yeah,
how many events would you say that we would attract with this accreditation?
well, I would like to say, I don't know, but
1, 2, 10.
I would hope
I mean,
more
just-
like
I don't know
4
how
or
the
5,
4 or 5.
yeah. I would like to be able to get roping, back at the arena, which would.
Yeah, so it relates to anything, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, they're super, these horses are ridiculously expensive and these arenas have to
Yeah,
have.
so I just went and cut that down to 0 because the other categories I can't cut down. Yeah, so.
Angie, in the, let's see, in your department report before the commission, you offered what I really liked the way you offered some comparisons with other similar facilities in the state. And do you know regarding that accreditation, is that something that you would say is standard practice or that you probably don't really know offhand, but do you think that that's something that other similar facilities in the state do have, you know? Just making sure, yeah.
As of the last time I looked, no one in Utah has it.
Okay.
There was, one in Colorado, but I know the person who had it no longer works there. He's left his position. So, it's extremely common back east.
I think the whole idea around a travel budget is for education and for what you're bringing back into the county. So I would agree that it's important to add back in there. And I just guess I pushed back on the lavish remark just a little bit because it's just like departments that bring a ton of grant money back in, and they do that by lobbying both at the state and the federal level, and that requires travel. There's no
Yeah.
way around it, and anything that benefits your department and increases the coverage of your budget, why, it makes total sense.
Yeah. And the reason why this one is more expensive is because, so last year it was in, Las Vegas, so we were able to drive and take our own vehicles, which was helpful, but this coming year, it will be in Nashville, so there's airfare and in there. The next one is office expenses and supplies. I have that at 2,100, and the biggest expense there is toner and ink.
21 or 20.
20,
Oh, 2,800, sorry.
Just double checking to make
Yep.
sure I don't, right.
Toner and ink, stall envelopes, and then signs on the property. We're constantly making signs and
and I think that we discussed, I don't remember with somebody else's budget, that we were gonna do some deep diving into our copier and toner and ink to try and get
Yeah.
centralized throughout the county, so it's possible that could be helped out a little bit.
we actually just, UCI, we actually just called them yesterday. Well, we started last week because, our stall envelopes are a pain to print and make happen, but we need them, and they came back with an unbelievable quote. I mean, it's ridiculous how great their quote was, so we'll be changing the way we do stuff, and having them print our stall envelopes. And I mean,
Where they're being printed now.
I'm buying envelopes off of Amazon and we're printing them in the office. But I mean, just to have my admin sit there and, I mean, virtually waste her time printing them, and the cost of the ink is so expensive. We're gonna save so much money by being able to send them off to UCI and have them printed.
And just make a just suggestion or as well as, can you also get a quote from a local vendor, see if there's anyone local. that
There-
does it.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's untouchable. That's what we were doing to begin with. And I had to leave there and do it through Amazon, do it in-house, yeah.
Thanks.
Um. Equipment maintenance. This would be, the maintenance of all of our vehicles, our AC units, all of our implements, anything that's like mechanical. This one, I took a big chunk off of it. It came out to $27,631. And I went ahead and brought it down to 21,631. And we will just keep our fingers crossed.
On that line, I'm seeing, as far as actuals for 2024, I guess it's year to year, so I don't know how relevant necessarily the historicals are, but you have been closer to 15 this year. You may have some purchases up to your budgeted amount this year. But just wanted to point out that context.
Yeah, this year it's gonna be, I know everything's gonna be tight. I still have, teeth and stuff to buy.
Right.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And then I'm down to the ball fields one. I know this one is still showing that I haven't spent anything. It's at 1,640. This account is kept to the bare minimum, and this, I buy like blades, aerator tines, batteries, belts, oil filters. I try to keep everything on a in-stock system at OSTA. So that way, when we do need it, it's like on a shelf somewhere. So what I do is at the end of the year, I buy all this stuff and I'm replacing and put it on the shelf. So we're getting ready to buy all of this stuff and replace it, put it back on the shelf. So you'll currently see that we haven't spent this money yet, but it's because we're coming to the end of the season and I'll be buying it and putting it all back on the shelf. Let's see, the next one should be, yeah, for maintenance for buildings and grounds. This one is everything facility related. Everyone knows the facility is highly used, so this would be everything from, and we do all of our own repairs. Until it gets to that point where we need a professional, but we do all of our, minor electrical, all of the irrigation, minor plumbing. We facilitate all of our projects. Yeah, the guys love it when I show them pictures off of Pinterest. They get really excited, but, so this one was, also came in a little higher. I cut this one back, but this one's coming in at 32,426. This fund is also, all the gravel on the property. We need a lot of gravel. Pretty much everything comes out of that fund.
And I've seen Angie's lists and spreadsheets before, and I can attest to the fact that what's being proposed to be budgeted to be spent here is itemized, broken down based on actual costs, and exact
Yeah.
that way.
I have a whole nother Excel spreadsheet that I could bring up and I could start breaking it down. If you would like to know where every bolt and nut goes, but yeah, I have
Just
it.
a little bit, I actually wouldn't mind seeing that, just because I'm looking at this and I look at the actuals right here, and we're over the actuals of last year.
Mhm.
And then what's actually been spent this year, looks like there's a little bit of a discrepancy in those maintenance accounts.
Yeah.
Just to kind of have a better understanding
You
of where.
want me to like,
Sure, you could just email it to me, or,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
that would be fine.
Include me, because I don't think it would even hurt to include it in the static, along with this static document.
Yeah, what I do is I have another spreadsheet that I do. It's almost like a check register.
Yeah.
Of every invoice that comes in and it's all done. So I could send you what I've done so far for this year. For that account, and it will show you what it was, and I put little notes in there what I used it for.
Mhm.
So I could send you
And I'm sure
that.
you've gone and gotten quotes and kind of figured out exactly
Yeah.
what it is that you're needing right there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure it out because, you look at like just equipment maintenance up at the top, in 2024, you started at 20 and then you ended up with 14 that you spent. And then in 2025, we were at 20 and then we ended up spending 15 so far this year.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if, is that, how those are working out.
Yeah, and some of that account, like I pull aside, so I know I have money pulled out of that account to cover what we're gonna go over for overtime. And then I also pull money out of, that's the account that I'll pull money out of, because, what other project, there was another, that's the account that covers thing, like those emergency funds.
But I mean,
Yep.
if it was me, I would much rather, just for what presented to me, I would much rather see the overtime, like I'm projecting to go this much in overtime and understand what's in overtime, rather than have a, basically a little bit of a fudge factor for the,
Yeah,
in the maintenance right there.
okay,
So, but that's
Alright.
just, that's how I would rather see the
Okay.
budget presented.
okay, that was just the way I was
Mhm.
told to do it, but
No, that's
Okay.
fine, that's have
And
questions on it.
does any of it, my question would be, does any of this fall into capital, or is it all small items that we need to
it's
continue?
everything that's under 5,000,
Okay,
yeah.
I mean, if we can move some of those items, I think that helps your budget if we're talking big items that
Yeah,
you're
no,
having
this
to
would be
purchase.
everything that's under 5,000.
Okay.
And then the ball field maintenance, this one also I cut back some, so it's at 21,840. And this one's almost pretty regular, copy and paste, repeat. So this is gonna be our fertilizers, our infield conditioners, our sprinkler heads, our solenoids, scrubber valves, things along those lines, PVC parts, peat moss, things, grass seed, things along those lines, weed killer, everything out there. A lot of it's copy and paste, because it's the same stuff we buy every year.
Do you think that this year you're on schedule to spend the 24,000, do you think?
Yeah.
Or
Keeping utilities the same as proposed, we're usually right on the money right there with utilities. This year, we might be a little higher just because the fire crews stayed longer and the lights and everything, nothing went off because they were working 24 hours. They had shifts. When one was resting, another shift was coming in. So nothing got turned off the whole time they were here.
I might have asked you last year, but on your utilities, are you on the irrigation system,
Yes.
water?
I'm on irrigation and culinary,
Okay,
and I have multiple
two,
meters
two
out there.
system,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
and I
you.
have multiple meters. And the fire did, I did submit an invoice, so they did reimburse us, so we will be getting. We actually, we got it last week, but
Yeah, I saw.
they did reimburse us.
Thank you, I was gonna ask,
Yeah,
or I was gonna ask you to clarify that.
yeah. So that was, that 36,225 is for the arena. Right? Yes. And then
And the ball.
the ball fields is the 6877. And then the lease payment. We're currently in an active lease for 2 fleet trucks. And then 1 tractor, and the fleet trucks are through the enterprise lease that the road department has set up, and then our tractor is a 5-year lease that ends in 2028. And then the next line is our fuel. I would like to request to keep the fuel up where we're at. We heavily rely on the fuel. We have our fleet vehicles, we have the 3 tractors, we have a bucket truck, a water truck, UTVs, generators, leaf blowers, chainsaws, and then also the stage requires diesel fuel. So we're usually hitting our mark on fuel, and I also take money and stash some aside just in case we go over on fuel, because we have to have gasoline. The next line is, I think, professional and technical services. To make a decision as far as where I could cut, we have opted to actually go ahead and cut our software program to try to save money, so we will be canceling our Event Pro. That is a subscription that helps us manage the reservations on our stalls. So when people call in for reservations for stalls and reserving the power and water for livestock, and how we manage some of the events on our end. That has gone up in price from when we originally started it, so we've had to make adjustments on that, so we're deciding to go ahead and cancel that to save some money. So that's $1,500, and then the remaining money that's in there is for our AutoCAD program, which we need, because that tells us where all of our water lines and power lines are on the property, and we use it to develop going forward. And then Canva, we use Canva heavy with all of the social media on our Facebook pages. I mean, we use Canva probably daily out there, so we would like to keep.
Once again, just a note for the record here, is that when IT comes up, I would like to start looking into some government suites.
Yeah.
Right, because there's been quite a few folks that have Canva and they're paying for that individually, same with
Yeah.
Adobe and quite a few of our suites, so I
I
think
agree.
that you might be able to pull something out that's to get a better deal for all.
And I have a comment regarding Canva that's not directed towards you, Angie, just because I have seen it come up in other
Yeah.
departments. I use it fairly regularly in my office, at least once a month, and I get by fine with the free version. There's a lot of stock images and AI tools and things of that nature involved in the pro, but like, I just don't think that anyone should actually need the pro. We don't have any professional graphic designers. No offense to the skills of your staff, but that's just my feeling on that.
You're limited on pictures and like availability without getting the pro.
I think I would have to check with Anna, but I think we were able to apply as like a nonprofit to get the pro for free. They do it at the program.
Thank you we'll have to make sure to consider that. And thank you.
Yeah.
Do we classify as a nonprofit?
I don't know, school district.
Yeah,
I
we're.
think we're.
I will work in it.
At the speaking.
On the cell phone allowance?
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Can I,
yeah,
you mind if I
yeah.
ask you a question? So if you're using the Event Pro for your stall reservations and all of that, how are you going to get by without it?
We really just need to communicate with each other. We're gonna try using Google and hope we don't mess it up, but I know
And how much is it? $750?
it's 1,500. Yeah.
I personally would leave it in there. I mean,
Yeah.
if you feel,
But
I know,
I know, I was going through and trying to figure out where to cut, and
I understand that and I
I need-
appreciate that, but
I
if
need
it,
bullet paper and power.
I understand that. But I also think if it's, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna just, let's put that on the record that I recommended you just leave that in there. If it's vital to you having reservations and communicating with one another, I would leave it in.
yeah. So.
Cell
The next one's cell phone. And that amount was given to me from HR. The cell phone covers, my cell phone, the assistant director's cell phone, and the admin assistant's cell phone. That's a bare minimum, but I rely on my whole staff to have their cell phones. And then stall maintenance, this one is really hard to cut out. We lost it in 2023 because I was gonna use it towards the stage and it didn't work out. And then it got cut in the we were gonna use it 2024. And then for the stage, we lost it the 2025 budget. And then now this year I have to opt to cut it. To try to save money, but those barns and they need some TLC. But that funding would have been used for lumber, some metal for welding repairs and paint. To give those barns some needed refurbishing that it needs. Event prep. This event prep account, it's not for the event holder. The event prep is for OSTA to prepare for events coming in, and we use that budget for things like caution tape, additional signage, lime, zip ties, things along those lines. As far as the arena part of it. And then also rental of a double drum roller. Every time that we need a hard compact the arena floor, we need to rent a double drum roller from Grand Rental. And that could range between $500 to $600 depending on how long we have it. So I cut the account got cut back in the 2025 budget. And I cut it back a little more, just, we're gonna have to make do, but I really need that account, cause we need to prep for safety reasons. I mean, the signage and.
How often do you use the drum roller?
Depending on the events, about, I'm gonna say we average between 3 to 6 times a year.
Okay, so that's super, okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, if you use it more, it might be worth, talking to Wheeler and saying, they have these rent to own, you know what I mean? There's a
Yeah.
point where it's like, well, if I'm paying this much in rental fees, I should just be paying it towards I mean, they did literally have a rent to own, so everything you pay to them, it just goes towards acquiring the piece of equipment. So anyways, but you don't use it super We don't
Yeah.
use it a ton.
We're actually, we've been looking into getting a roller implement for our
Oh, good.
tractor.
Awesome.
So
Okay.
that was one of the things I would like to get as far as a capital
Yeah,
equipment.
Yeah, put that on the
Uh,
capital equipment list. That's great.
To where we could
Okay,
have it and
Yeah.
it be an implement,
yeah. I think that-
and see if that does.
Yeah, put it.
I would like to find somebody who lets us, test it and try it.
Yeah.
They could break it down and.
Yeah.
Let us,
Yeah.
the word is escaping me, where they let us,
Demo.
demo it, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, I would like to demo it. Because sometimes it's not heavy enough and it doesn't give that vibration that we need. But if that works out, that would be great. And I think that would be a cheaper solution for us, but. Yeah, so. And then the other event prep is for the ball fields, and that one's 1,500. That one is marked down. And in that account, we buy the field marking paint, whiskers, to mark all the sprinklers, chalk, spray paint for the fields, and then signage. But with it being at 1,500, we have already reached out to the soccer teams and the baseball field, baseball, teams, let them know that we're probably gonna need help next year, with some field paint, because that budget's not gonna cover everything that we need to get. Work crew supplies. This account, covers all the work crew, wear, which would be, like staff shirts, a sweatshirt, their steel toe boots, PPE, like work gloves. It also includes, our AED pads. Those have expiration dates on them that have to be replaced. They're fairly expensive. And then all of the paper products for the facility, so all the toilet paper, paper towels, Kleenexes, cleaning supplies, sponges, garbage bags, brooms, mops, vacuum bags, everything that the facility needs to clean and maintain it comes out of this account. So it's really hard for that account to take a hit, because the more the facility gets used, more of those products are needed. So I cut it back. I'm a little nervous to cut it back because it comes to $12,018.43. I went ahead and opted to bring it back to 9,000 and just. We'll watch it the best we can, but trying to save money, that's where I decided to make those cuts. And then same for the ball field side of it. It comes to 4,851, and where we're sitting right now and making those decisions, I'm gonna go ahead and keep it the 1,500 where we are. With the rec board paying some of the M&O for the OSTA, I split things up. So that way the ball field side also equally shares some of those fees. The portables, what am I on? The miscellaneous services, which brings us down to the stage. I know everyone knows that we need to get additional staff trained and certified for the stage. The goal was to get that done this year, but being short-staffed, it doesn't make sense now to do that because I don't have the staff to get trained. Those fees are to have 4 operators certified and trained, and with that instructor coming out of Canada, it would be silly to pay that fund right now when I don't have 4 staff to train. I would need to hire first, and then have them trained. But we're also at the point now to where the stage needs to be recertified and inspected. So that's gonna bump those costs up also. So those fees will include the travel for the operator to come out of Canada, for technicians to be certified, and for the stage to be re-inspected and recertified. So we're looking at between $8,000 to $10,000 for that. And then we are still being heavily asked for the sunscreen and sidewalls, and then the floor extensions. And that comes in about 8,500.
Back to the stage, I know that we've talked about the fact this was a joint partnership with the city. And so are all of these expenses that you're incurring going to be split back to the 50-50? And how have you been doing? Because I know when that stage goes out currently, we are being tasked with setting it up and tearing it down when it's a city event. Are we recapturing those fees somewhere?
Not from the city. So we do the city's event, which is one time a year. It's their street fest. But it's the OSTA staff who sets it up and tears it down. So it's coming out of my budget. And it's my staff.
But yet it's owned 50-50 with the city, correct?
Yeah, they
And so
put the funding
I
in.
think we need to find a way to pass these through an invoice to the city of some sort.
Yeah. Or they relinquish it to us. That's my thought.
Relinquish the stage entirely to you?
Well, to the county, yeah.
Right. Which
I know
would be
we
fine,
collect the
but then we
fees.
would have to look at, are we going to charge them when they use it? I guess I didn't understand why we're in a partnership to begin with, and if we are, then we need to be sharing the costs equally with the city on this.
I was around, you were around when we bought the stage. I mean, I think my memory was just, it was just an overall great asset for the community, tourism, et cetera, and so on. I think it was like, how much was it? 150 grand?
180.
That's like, it was a lot. But I do like the idea, Bill, of, I mean, maybe even with just this additional components that she's seeking to purchase and the training that half of that could be invoiced to the city.
Wasn't it that the city was supposed to have a person on staff that was able to set this up?
That was the original agreement, yeah, but
So-
their, people that they sent one of them did not pass, and the other one passed with, like stipulations. And they weren't fulfilled, so his certification is not,
So
validated.
my point is basically an invoice doesn't really cut it, right? Like, I mean, when I look at it, it's like an invoice is like for if somebody came in and that Grant County was receiving benefits for it. If it's a city, I mean, it's not just the rental of the stage that they need, right? They actually need to have that person on staff, and if not, then they should be paying for that for
Yeah.
Grant County to have that person trained up.
So are you like
And that's, so
thinking more of like an MOU that we put together?
we already have it.
Right,
The MOU is
well,
already there, so
maybe we need to update
it's
it.
enforcing what's already in place is what I'm saying.
And the thing is since getting the stage and learning the stage and inventory of the stage, it's so much more complicated than that. And I would not recommend sharing the stage or giving it to somebody else to be responsible for it. There's just too much. There's too much that could be lost. There's too much that could be damaged. I think we're setting it up for it to be damaged and for it not to be usable. And you're gonna incur a pretty steep cost to get it fixed.
Is there any way that we could get a total of what the stage costs us then?
Every year, I mean, that should be being split currently 50-50 anyway, if we're in a partnership.
Yeah, I would have to total up, yeah, I would have to total up like employee hours and
It would be helpful.
yeah, my face just
I mean, not right now, but.
disappeared. Where am I at? I'm at.
Somewhere in these last few inventory or schooling.
Used to do like that.
Sorry, my whole thing just.
Zoom in there on the big screen.
That is stage.
Mhm.
Or who supplies.
Oh, so I'm at inventory. Okay, so inventory, I just knocked that one down to 0. To save on cost, but. Um. Yeah. In years prior, this line has ranged from 12,000 to 20,000, depending on, planned projects that was needed. With the increase of utilization of OSTA inventory is important, the request. Budgets, proposed at a cutback, let's see. We're just willing to sacrifice entirely current inventory. Items at the facility that is needed would be additional chairs. Those were allocated in 2025, but, we weren't able to get them, because of they were cut. But the things that we would, if we were able to put money into that account, we would like, chairs. And then we've also been looking at additional implements to help our fund, in the future. So they would be items like a profile blade, the roller implement I was talking about, a rock screen, a laser level, a box blade, and a box blade with a level. So those will be things coming in the future for that fund. We also did the same thing as far as the ball field. We brought that one down to 0, which was a voluntary cut. And the current inventory item that we would have asked for that account, is weed whacker attachments. That's something that we're in the need for. I believe that would be schooling. We did cut 2,100 out of there, and that would be for the registration for the league classes. That I was talking about at the beginning of this. And then the 665 that is left in there would be covering our CPR first aid classes, which is needed considering we work heavily with the public with events. And then an applicator's license renewal. And that would be for, like our weed control. I have an employee who carries a applicator license, so that's what that would cover. And then, my narrative just goes into talking about, how my request overall is just to be able to hire back, our maintenance tech that was budgeted for 2025, and then requesting for an additional staff for 2026, which I talked about in the beginning. Yeah, I don't think I need to really go over that
Right.
again. Oh, the one thing, Capital Works. Where did that, did I skip over that? Yeah. Cause
Well, that was the one thing, Angie, so you had mentioned in your presentation, the fire suppression system.
yes,
And yeah, I mean, I would assume if you guys are sending those lists forward, you'll have that at one of your priorities. And we know that it's a priority.
yeah. So we actually had the emergency repair, which.
Right.
Commission saw.
Yeah.
And during that repair, the technicians that came out was State Fire. And the pipe that's going into the ground, it's a big pipe. I'm gonna say, don't know the actual measurement. I'm gonna say it's like a 10-inch pipe. It's, the corrosion that's on it, he had a hard time hooking back up. To the flange, and he had to do a lot of cleaning and stuff, so he did recommend that when we do replace the system, to bid that pipe out, and well, getting the pipe going into the ground replaced also. Because he said if you're replacing the whole system and you have everything opened up, it makes sense to do that at the same time, to prevent problems later down the line. And that could be anywhere from an additional like $30,000 to $50,000 to have that pipe replaced. So I wanted to put that out there also, that we should probably add that to the bid, have it bid out at the same time. just as I have it opened up. And then our pressures came back at a -2 when they did that. Which means our antifreeze is definitely low. I knew it was gonna have to be replaced in 2026 regardless. So it just reaffirms that the system has to be done in 2026. Cause with it, especially with it leaking, that number is just gonna go. We're just gonna lose more pressure. And I lost I don't see it here, I don't know what happened, but. I had more stuff in the capital works line going down. And I pretty much
That
just,
can lead into the conversation that we just had about, I'm sorry if you missed it, but we want to create a list of
okay,
some of those capital needs across all facilities.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we can go there then, but you've done a great job providing us a lot of detail. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Any questions or comments, at this time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just the first one is just the demand for 2026. What you're seeing so far. Are you seeing that we're gonna be having an increase in either, I don't know how you judge your demand, is it revenue or occupancy or number of events? What
Well,
metric you use?
I could tell you the calendar's booked starting the second week of March right now, going all the way through into August.
Is that more than what we saw the same time in 2025, do you think?
I'm gonna say it's pretty similar to 2025, and then I have another event that's trying to come in. That we're looking for a date for right now. Team Rubicon's also coming back. I found out yesterday. Yeah, which is exciting, which is great for the community also, but it again keeps the staff busy and the facility busy and the demands on the facility, but yeah, we're just as busy.
So you're looking at staying flat for demand for 2025 to 2026?
Yeah,
It's not,
yeah,
it's not an
just as-
increase or a decrease?
Yeah, we're increasing and events are trying to figure out where they could get in, but yeah, we're gonna,
You think that it's going to be increased then?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
By a large percentage or a small percentage?
It's just filling those gaps.
So,
I don't think it's gonna be a large percentage, but we're definitely,
okay.
those gaps are filling up.
And do you anticipate the availability of, contributions from the Recreation Special Service District for any given amount of needs that you need to address?
It's gonna depend on the mineral lease and the silt, what they get. So. I'm just waiting to hear what they get. They did ask me, what my project list looks like, so I'm putting that together for them. I think they're trying to figure out. Everything's so expensive right now on what needs to be repaired. I think they're trying to figure out what they can afford it. Or what they can start saving up for.
And this isn't really budget, but I'll just reiterate, as I always do with OSTA. To me, that place, once you came in, has changed exponentially. You know, I just drive by it all the time and it is full of people, whether it's on the ball field, whether it's in the pavilion, and it's just amazing. And you just have these visions, like you're constantly like, and we can do this and we can do that, and that's cool.
Thank you.
It's really cool. It means a lot.
Thank you.
So I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I just have one question. I know we've talked a few times about the correlation of the fees that we're charging the events. Have we been able to do some tracking on the events that come in there and whether or not we are subsidizing them or whether we need to raise fees in any way on any of these larger events, I guess especially, but any event, just so that we know that the Jeep Safari user, for example, if it's costing the county $75,000 to host that event, what are we charging that event on the other side of it? And I know some of it's offset by the fact they bring in tourism to the county, but being able to have a little better idea of an event and what it costs the county to put that event on.
Yeah, I put some of that in my presentation. And I'm also working with Melissa on trying to figure out how we could track it when those events come in versus hotels and restaurants. So we've been talking about that. And I did look at other fee schedules at other arenas, and our fee schedule's right there, right in line with other facilities. I think we would damage ourselves if we did too much of an increase. I think the only place that we can look at charging would be with our open ride. And that would be something, I think that would be a discussion point, because that's one of the benefits of that we provide to our community is the open ride for locals, to provide that free facility. But we're really the only arena that offers that. All the other facilities do charge membership fees. So, but other than that, we're right in line.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Thanks so much, Angie.
Thank you.
Good job.
So, for the next item on the agenda, we have, listed on the agenda, Grand County Active Trails and Transportation. I received a concern or just a request, from board member Winfield, regarding some concerns that you had regarding, the grant mechanisms that go into the funding, of this department's activities. My preference is to, use everyone's time productively. I can't always anticipate, what information is everyone needs to be able to interpret the budgets and be prepared for the presentations. So I guess, I don't know, Bill, are you willing to?
I'm
just
totally
describe-
fine moving forward. It looks like we, that is the plan, and I'm fine with it. I just think that between this meeting and possibly when this comes before the commission, that we're gonna have to break it down somewhat. I know that Commissioner McCurdy in the past has raised the issue, and that's one of the reasons I mentioned having a little more information was the grants and the interest that we're earning off of the money that's sitting there. And whether that money is legal to be used to fund this department, or if it should be going towards whatever trail or whatever those grants were allotted for. And so some of that's not clear in here, and that's why I was curious for some more information, but we can go through this and we'll work that out between now and the next commission meeting, or I mean, the commission meeting when this comes before us.
Certainly, we want to address any information that's requested, so that everyone can understand and feel comfortable.
Did you ask for more information or for us to postpone this?
I asked just to postpone it till the next
Okay.
meeting so that we
Just in the future, my opinion is we should do it in a public meeting. And that's what I asked to postpone the building inspector. That way, we're all apprised of what's going on.
Yeah, great. Glad you did it.
So you don't object to moving forward?
No, not at all. Move it forward. It'll be in this public meeting and it'll be in the commission public meeting when we deal with it. So there was no, I don't know if that's an attempt to say that there was some kind of underground event.
I mean, I
It
don't
had nothing to
have
do with it.
the GCAT budget here, because I assume it was being
Yep.
attempted to be delayed.
It was sent to admin and Gabe both, so it wasn't any attempt. Glad to
So
go
I'll
through it now and we'll
ask in
just
the
work
future
on the
that we
rest of
do
it
that.
later.
I'll just ask in the future that we do that in an open and public meeting.
Maddie, are you ready to present your budget?
Yeah, Quinn, do you mind, I can't share while there's something else being shared. Yeah, and I actually do have a lot of breakout tabs in addition to what's in the packet, and so that's what I want to go through. So I suspect that questions about grants will be answered during my presentation.
Good, thank you.
Okay. So I'm gonna kind of work backward from next year's schedule, and then we're gonna work our way through kind of conversations about all of the grants and related expenditures to get to that budget spreadsheet that's the county template and the overview. And if there's questions about those, we can go through them. So just to give you guys an idea of the process, because so many of the revenue streams we use are grants that are tied to specific projects. this is the best approach I found to do it. So basically, this is our schedule week by week for 2026. The grants are color coded, so you can see we have an estimate of, we have our operations coordinator hours, we have our staff hours. In some cases, we have volunteer hours when we have like a minimum requirement for those. And then we also have a project too, because the reality is we're usually splitting the crew and working on different things at different times. So this goes through, you can see we've got a few different grants for the spring. Summer, we have just one grant funding our summer season up to LaSalle's. And then fall, we've got some overlap with the spring, and then we have Mud Springs, because that's when we're able to work on that project. We're unable to work on that project in the spring because of restrictions on that build window. So then if you go up to the top, we've got some overviews that use, these are all just like sum if formulas, so it's pretty easy to see where they came from. So for example, this column right here, column H, this just shows how many hours for the trail technicians we have that are on grant projects for this coming year. And this is helpful because, for example, the operations coordinator, we use this as a match on a lot of grants. So we need to know that we're fulfilling that match, but we're not actually getting revenue. And then for the trail technician hours, we're actually getting grant funding, so revenue coming in to help cover some of those expenses.
And are these in our packet, these documents?
I don't think they're in there. They are in the folder that's shared, like I can see AJ's on it right now.
So there was a live spreadsheet that I had shared last Friday that had the wealth of this entire host of documents. I felt for the purposes of the agenda packet, including the standard budget spreadsheet with the overview, was appropriate, and this level of granularity, it might have been a bad call by me not to include all 7 documents, but that felt like a little bit of overkill for the agenda packet.
It went out in an email, Gabe.
I should have done a better job of pointing that out to all members of the board.
I'll find it, no worries.
And honestly, it's probably not a bad, like, this probably requires a little bit of guiding you all through it and for the public as well. So it's probably not a bad thing that we're like going through it all together. So this is broken out by position because this also relates to some information that I work with HR to get. And then if you scroll to the right, so this is where I have a column that's the potential reimbursement amount. So based on our schedule, how many hours of labor are eligible for expenses? And then I check that against like what we actually have in our budget with our grant contract. And then some of those do have contingency. And so depending on, you know, how the project's going and information I have, just if we ended up spending everything on materials as expected, sometimes like for RTP grant 24 through 26, we can use that contingency for staff. So I have another column here. And then I have some notes here about just some details. Like for example, MS1 is Mud Springs phase 1. So we have 2 different grants that pay for phase 1. And then we also have a contribution by San Juan County that they gave us, I believe it was in 2024, but we've been holding that because it funds half the hours of our trail crew, and that's the match on the grant. So it has to be spent at like a specific time and reimbursed in a specific way. Okay, so then this is feeding all this information about grants, and there's an additional breakout tab for grant expenditures. And this this is what does take me a lot of time when I'm coming up with my budget to go through. So this has each grant program, a little bit of information about the total awards and what was spent previously. It's not always relevant, like some of them I didn't put in them because we haven't started the grant yet. And then the main thing that comes out of this is for each grant, there's if you look at the total they're giving us, it doesn't necessarily tell you that breakdown between labor and materials. So this is where you can find that. So for example, RTP 24 to 26, RTP is Recreational Trails Program. We've got some money for signage design and production, and then we've got some money for trail maintenance. And so this number for trail maintenance is being fed, see if it'll work. Oh yeah. Anyway, it's being fed ultimately by that schedule that you saw. And then this signs and designs is, you know, what I've plugged in directly from the our grant budget. And then this is the total in revenue that we expect. So then if we take these numbers, they all feed into these breakout tabs for revenue and expenditures. So you can go to state grants line item, So in, in Cassell or in that budget template that's from the county, there's just one line item for state grants. So I break it out because I also have to track throughout the year if we've sent out reimbursements, that we've received the correct amount, that it's ended up in the correct account. So this is all, it's all broken out here. So this RTP 24-26, we just saw this total revenue is being fed from the grant sheet. And then if we go to expenditures, which we'll go into more, we have RTP 24-26. We've got materials are here, so those signs. And then we have a new line item for reimbursable salaries, so that I now have a code so that if it's grant hours, it can go to its own little salaries account as well, that's separate from salaries that aren't getting reimbursed. And then additionally, this may or may not be helpful, so this is just also a breakdown by position, where I go through and I have, the total number of hours. If some grants we can get the fringe benefits, some we can't, so I have some notes here kind of explaining that. Total expense, total reimbursable expense. So for some, this will be like for our trail technicians, pretty much every hour they're working is reimbursable. For our OHV trail coordinator position, it's not by hours, it's actually just the whole full-time position. So we're getting grant funding for salaries, but not for benefits. So that's kind of reflected here, and there's a note about that. And then I did add in, so thinking about the realities of next year, something will happen and we will deviate from our schedule. For example, like the BLM is probably going to make a decision about e-bikes on the trails. And so if they open some trails to e-bikes, that's a project that we don't currently have scheduled or funded by grants, but we're going to need to go out and like change out signage and, potentially do other stuff, TBD. And so I did put in 2.5 weeks of flexibility for the trail crew. And what that does is that saves us a lot of time and confusion where we might have to go, well, either just deviate and not get as much revenue as we expected, or work through amending our contracts, which is also like a pretty time intensive thing. So if we build in, I think 2.5 weeks of flexibility, that should cover things as they arise. So moving back to revenue. I guess we can go through. We can go through it line item by line item. I guess I'm curious if at this point there's any questions about specifically how those grants are worked out.
I don't have any.
One of the questions is where the optional tax is at, because I didn't see that inside the break.
Yeah, that's right here.
Yeah, but the breakout of that expense, a breakout according to all of the expenses.
Yeah, that's right here. This is in the revenue side.
Yeah.
And so the way I calculate that, so it is tricky because every year, the grants that we get, we apply in the spring, they're usually awarded in the summer, sometimes in the fall. We usually plan on starting them the following year so that we're not kind of waiting on contracts to get signed. And then they follow the state cycle, so they go for a 2-year period, but they end in the summer. And so because there's sort of these 2-year offset periods, every year different grants are ending and different grants are starting, right? And they all have sort of different matches and different revenue amounts. So the way I have determined is the best to do this is to really look at the total expenditures, which we'll go into in more detail. But here's the total expenditures from my sheet that has a breakout. Adding in all of the grant revenue. So that we just went through, which is coming from that breakout for grant expenditures, and it's also repeated up here. And then the difference is basically that optional sales tax request. And then I work with, this year it's Cody, in the past it's been Bill Jackson, but I say like, hey, here's what I think it's going to cost this year based on kind of this, shifting difference between what grants cover and what the county covers. And then,
So it covers the short, basically.
yeah.
So it's not, my question is, so it's not broke down as like, like 10% of the shovel basically is optional, or 5% of the
Correct.
salary is not, okay.
Yeah, it's covering primarily overhead, so like vehicles, stuff like that grants aren't really gonna cover. Like we give, I think it's like $18,500 to, for admin services. So that's not really covered on grants. And then also my salary, which particularly, and then the, our operations coordinator, those positions, some of it we can use grant funding for, but like for my position, I've actually started to move away from using grant funding because what I found is that like if something comes up and I'm needed to work on like the budget, then I don't go out to the field and then we're losing that revenue. So if I get to go out to the field, great. You know, I can assist with that, but we're not like counting on me hitting certain hours because that can end up like impacting operations in other ways. So yeah, so the total. We go to the expenditure sheet. This is like kind of another little way to look at the overview, but I've got non-reimbursable expenditures here. Reimbursable grant expenditures here, and then I broke it down by staff and other expenses. So really our staff costs are $500,000. And then our non-reimbursable expenses, which is kind of just our general operations, is about $120,000. So our total operating costs are about $620,000 every year, but we're covering a lot of that with grants. And then there's, of course, some big items for special projects, which I will talk about now. So we're on the expenditures page. And one thing I did for this year is just to make this a little easier to see, I changed the colors of the reimbursable expenses. So we have this new reimbursable salaries line item. But then if you keep scrolling down, we have these reimbursable line items that are in blue. And they're named reimbursable expenses 1, 2, 3, et cetera, because like I said, the grants end, then we get new grants. So we're kind of recycling these categories so that we don't end up with like making new ones every year and then they fall out of use. That's more of like the accounting side of it. So I just labeled here like what they are for this year. And then in 2026, we'll close this out. And in 2027, we might be using reimbursable expenses for a different grant when a new one comes in. And then in addition to all the grants, we also do have an interlocal agreement with the city. The Spanish Valley Drive pathway has its own line item. That is a grant from UDOT. And this number, I think we'll probably update this number before the end of the year based on activities this fall, but it's a 1-to-1 ratio with the revenue. So if this number increases or decreases, the revenue will increase or decrease, so it won't really affect the rest of the budget.
Just a question on that right there.
Sure.
That the, in here you have the, you know, your primary sources of grants, interest, and, the optional. Is the interest in there, is that from the grant, from the Spanish Valley pathway?
That's all reimbursed, so that's not actually cash that we have on hand.
Okay, so that goes back into the grant or into that fund?
Yeah, any expenses that come out of that line, show up as revenue in a given year after services are completed. Does that make sense? I don't know if we're talking the same language. So that there's not actually 2.3 million sitting in that fund because it's, you know, we just request reimbursements after services are rendered. But we budget for the whole amount just to be prepared to spend as much as we need to in a given year.
So does Grand County have the 2.4 million? No, that's sitting with the state till once services. Okay, that was the question that I had. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that was where Commissioner McCurdy was going also.
Yeah.
I think for the fund balance, so the fund balance isn't something that I have like in my year-to-year budget, because it's not like what we're planning to spend. But I did meet with Cody and Sean and Izzy last week, where we just talked about paved path stuff, because paved path expenses are housed within Fund 47 as a trail. But of course, it's one of those projects where there's everyone's doing a little piece, right? So Sean's crew is taking care of the maintenance, the roads department is doing chip seal when we're doing that. So we're trying to coordinate a little bit on that. It is worth noting that up until I think last or this year maybe, we were putting $100,000 into the fund balance essentially every year, because if there's
Major thing for that.
yeah, so I think there's like 1.5 million in there, and talking to Cody, he thought that was a pretty appropriate amount to try and, you know, preserve roughly in that realm, just because, you know, he was like, well, if there's rockfall on River Road, right, like it's gonna eat through that pretty quickly. So I didn't put 100,000 in again this year. Actually, let me just pull up that line item. So this line 33, paved path maintenance. So I really just, you know, to try and have a lean budget, I just put in like the actual expenditures that we expect. I didn't put anything in there for like a just in case. We're not planning on doing seal coat or other large expenses next year. But I guess just know that we could be putting 100,000 in there to continue to build that if we wanted, and that seems to be what was recommended in the past. Or we could say 1.5 million is like enough, and we can just let that sit there and, you know. Maybe a future discussion to be had. I don't know what the best answer is.
Yeah.
And yeah, here's the interest income here.
So then that interest income is coming from the 1.5 then,
Yeah, for optional sales tax.
Got it.
Yeah. And then here's the city's,
and then the. yeah,
income
so
as well. Yeah. Okay, so we're kind of working our way out. So then we have this spreadsheet, which is the county template. This, I do have some notes on here, but, this is pretty much just copied between the revenue breakout tab and the expenditures breakout tab. We can go into this more if people want to do like Angie did, go into every line item. I will go to this overview really
Just
quick.
focusing
Oh.
on the major changes and then it's just using your overview document, but yeah, you
Sure.
don't necessarily have to go line by line. Yeah.
Okay.
Or, yeah, it's already 11, yeah. Not, I don't want to take any time away from you though.
Am I the last one?
Yes.
Okay, I have an hour.
Technically true.
Great, well, I don't think it'll take an hour. But I guess, so I do have this yellow column here has 2025 totals. This category total here is for 2026. And then there are some categories, let's see if I can find one as an example. Oh yeah, like inventory, there's just like kind of a bunch of different stuff in inventory, so I did break it out just into subcategories so that someone can look and say like, okay, 1,100 for furniture. So let's see, what ones might be of interest to you all? I think one thing to notice is that I
Are
did,
we
so,
allowed to use, sorry, are we
Okay.
allowed to use this right here if it wasn't made public?
I believe
It
so.
wasn't attached to the agenda?
I believe so, it's all the same numbers, it's just more notes.
I don't know of any rule that would disallow.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I know when we've tried to use, you know, in some of our other meetings, when we've tried to use, documents that were not attached to the agenda, that there was a problem with that.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay,
I would be interested to know, and I'd be happy to follow up and add it to this packet.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, these numbers should all be exactly the same as what was in the packet. If there's something that's different, then let me know, because that's a mistake. So everything in column H should be the ones that are reflected into the county template. So I guess we've kind of already talked about salaries, reimbursable salaries, and benefits from those breakout tabs. Those are also, I've worked with HR to make sure that those are correct. Our office supplies went up a little bit because we buy ink for the shared printer in the Sandflats office, and that ink is a bit pricey, so we budgeted more for next year. Equipment supplies and maintenance. We are discovering that the OHV, the Can-Am Defender is needing a bit more maintenance than we expected. So we have some of that covered in a grant, some of it that's sort of on a schedule, some of it that might come up unplanned for next year, which we haven't put in the budget, but just an FYI, I guess. Paved path maintenance, so just to touch on this a little bit more, so I put who does what in here, so roads is managing the elevated structure inspections, and the crack seal materials. So these numbers are from Cody. This number is from Sean, so this is estimated hours that they're probably gonna spend on maintenance. And we did increase this a little bit, it was 25,000 for this year, and he's at that about right now, and expecting more work to be done, so we bumped that up by $5,000 to cover that. And my understanding is that, like, even with trying to be really conservative with the budget, we just kind of have to budget for that because of liability. If it's, you know, if it's unmaintained, or if there's a maintenance need, we have to address that. Working on some signage for maintenance enclosures. Oh yeah, I put a question mark here. This is just an I have to clarify this, is the only reason there's a question mark, but this is insurance for our office, our things in our shed, and then our vehicles. miscellaneous supplies is pretty much everything that is, not in grants for materials, so like posts and hardware and just those things that come up that maybe we didn't see 2 years ago when we wrote the grant. And then a lot of our volunteer program expenses. So these volunteer expenses, these actually were previously paid for with the TRT/slash general fund, as kind of related to responsible rec. But, you know, it was kind of a 50-50 between volunteer trail ambassadors and then all of our volunteers on the trails. So I do feel like we should definitely preserve the volunteer aspect because it brings in about $45,000 a year. And that's the value of labor. So that's the actual labor that we get, which we really need because we don't have enough staff to do all the work that needs to get done. And then additionally, that's $45,000 in value that we are currently using on grants. So that's part of our match. So we're kind of getting a pretty good deal on grants because volunteers are helping us fulfill our required matches. So these things, you know, we post social media posts to get people to show up to events. We'll get bubbly waters, sometimes we'll get pizza, and then we try and do an end of year appreciation event. So we estimated about $12 for 80 people. And then a little bit of staff appreciation here, so a few donuts a year. These are all the reimbursable expenses, so these I can go into in more detail, but basically these are all gonna be items like materials, or we have camping per diem here that were specifically included in other grants that the grants are paying for. So for these items, like if we cut them, we're essentially cutting our revenue because they're fully reimbursed. So that's why they're kind of divided out in this way. I've also put anything related to the OHV program in orange, just because some of them are on grants like this one. And then some of them are just new expenses based on having kind of an increased scope of work for next year. So with the OHV trail coordinator position, we're expecting them to need to go out, visit different projects, go to meetings independently. You know, they're gonna need a truck to do that. They're gonna maybe need some materials and things of that nature. So scrolling down, I guess, are there any particular questions before I move to the overview page? Oh, I did preserve some trainings in here. Trainings and conferences, you know, we did cut these down significantly from previous years. Part of that is because we have fewer staff moving into next year. And then part of that is like, we've just cut out things we want to go to just for the sake of fiscal conservatism. There are some I think we should preserve because like the Utah Trail Summit and Utah Outdoor Recreation Summit, those are both ones where all of our state partners are there who are giving us all of these grant opportunities that we've been benefiting from. So I think it's a good opportunity to go build those relationships. They also usually have presentations about not only which grant programs they have, but how much funding is going to be in them for the next year. So you can kind of strategize on which grants are best to apply to. And then also we just hear about what other communities are doing in the realm of trails. So it kind of helps us stay up to date on what other communities are doing, and then like what new technologies and advancements and innovations should we just be aware of because we might want to adopt those. Any questions on? Okay. All right, let's move into this overview, which it's the overview. I chose to kind of work through it just so you guys can basically like see all the work leading up to this. So for the overview, I mean, so the last few years, we've had two programs in GCAT. We've had the trail infrastructure program with the trail crew. We've had the responsible recreation program with the trail ambassadors. So for 2026, the most major change is that the responsible recreation program and the trail ambassadors are moving out into a nonprofit. So there's definitely a lot of differences there, right? Like we're not really going to be using, we're only going to be using one funding stream, optional sales tax for just those trail projects, trail and transportation projects. And then our staffing is drastically decreased. So overview is this year we had 20 positions. One of those was a temporary grant funded position for the Master Trails project. So really like 19 operational positions. And then next year we're expecting 8. There's a breakdown at the bottom here. So this is this year. And then this is 2026. Budget overview. So one thing, I was looking through this morning. I did notice a mistake here. So this thing I bolded, ignore that. Those numbers are wrong. The correct numbers are below in these spreadsheets. So making all of those cuts and expenditures from the year before, we still ended up with a slight increase in optional sales tax. So let's see, last year. Put that. Oh yeah, so this year it was about 277,000. Next year we're requesting 309,000 roughly. So the reason for that is just slight increase in staffing, some new expenses like our vehicles are changing around, and then the largest new expense is that we're bringing on the OHV trail coordinator position. So previously that position, the match for that grant funded position was funded by TRT/general fund. Talking to Gabe, it seems like optional sales tax is probably the way to go since it'll be working on trail infrastructure. So it's not like exactly a new expense, but it's a new expense for using that particular revenue stream, if that makes sense. So for 2025 optional sales tax numbers, this is sort of the goal with a 5% reduction. Here's what we ended up with after looking at all of that scheduling and grants. So the final change was a 3.4% increase in that optional sales tax. 23,000 was the new expense for the OHV trail coordinator benefits for that position, salaries grant funded. And then here's the total. So the final change for optional sales tax is an 11.7 increase. But our overall tax revenue we used this year was over 600,000. So if you're looking at these numbers, it's like a 50% decrease roughly. And then an overview of sort of how we made those cuts. So we pretty much deferred anything that was deferrable. We're not asking for next year. So this laptop actually needs to be replaced, but we're going to defer that to 2027. We're not asking for any equipment rentals next year. So in years past, we've asked for funds to rent a mini excavator, like in case we've needed that for projects and had some ideas of how to use it. Next year, we're just gonna cut that out. And then we've cut out like most of the trainings we've done in the past. I've also worked with HR. We looked at the director and operations coordinator salaries because pretty much every other salary is grant funded, like I said, for kind of strategic reasons. These ones are not grant funded. So we can't really save any money by decreasing anyone else's hours. So if we're looking for cuts, we decreased my hours and the operations coordinator hours to include some unpaid leave in there. That saved us about $15,000. We also did cut a trail tech position. So the last few years, we've had a fifth position for part of the spring or the fall. We cut that position entirely. So again, there's some consequence to operations in that one, we're losing a position, which makes it a little bit harder to split the crew. And then two, we're losing out on some flexibility, right? Like if we're budgeting for 4 people and they're almost all grant funded, then we kind of have to stick to that schedule. So if stuff comes up, we have less ability to jump in and help elsewhere. And then we also cut the volunteer coordinator position. So this was a position that was previously paid for with TRT/general fund. I talked to staff. I think we are a little concerned that like this position is really helpful for building that volunteer base. And then the volunteers are, they're part of our operations to maintain trails. So I think for next year, for the sake of like kind of county teamwork and making budget cuts, we're going to do without it. And then if it turns out it goes really poorly, we'll probably look at asking for some hours for this position in 2027 if we find that we're like losing a lot of our volunteers because we're unable to manage them effectively. If additional cuts are needed, probably the most bang for your buck would be cutting a new lease for a truck for the OHV trail coordinator position. I talked to Jason at the roads department. There's a high mileage truck that's available, but I think in our experience, if we have someone heading out by themselves to remote areas, we'd like them to have a really reliable vehicle because sometimes they don't start. And then if they're out there by themselves, it's a safety risk. And then it's also a lot of logistics to get them out of there. So I think we would recommend spending the money to get a reliable truck if we want him going out and scouting different trails. If there's some flexibility to pull from that fund balance, there's a few expenses that I would like to request getting added back in. So one is we did cut our wilderness first aids recertifications. Most of our staff have current woofers, so wilderness first responders that they have come in with. And so if they do a wilderness first aid, it just keeps that certification current. And we feel it's pretty important because we have them out over an hour from medical services. And so it just helps with our risk management to encourage them to keep those certifications up to date if something happens. We've been very lucky so far. I think we've only had one injury in the last like ever. But you know, things can happen out there. Also, from talking to Melissa Jeffers, we're trying to really dial in the economic impact of the trails. And one thing that's hard to do is we have trail counters on some of the trails, but not a lot of the ones a lot of the ones that would be great to have, we just don't have them currently. So like Mud Springs, we would love to be able to put some trail counters, right, to show like new trail system, how many people are using it first season, how many people are using it second season. So if we got 6 additional counters, we could use them in that area. We could also use them on some motorized trails because I don't think we have a ton of numbers for those as well. So that would be an expense I think could help us kind of figure out economic impact. Touching on this again, so this would be restoring that 5th trail technician position at 600 hours, which would allow them to work 1 season, which could be really helpful for us. Like for Mud Springs, to be determined how much of that project we finish this fall, but for next fall, that's a project I could see, like if we had the ability to have another person come out and help, that could be really impactful for us and take a lot of stress off the 4 people out there who would be required to move a lot of dirt with 4 of them instead of 5. And again, like just kind of scaling up, if there were funds available, having that person work spring and fall, I think it could really help with trail maintenance needs. This is the volunteer coordinator position, so prioritizing them just for the spring season to help with the spring spruce up event. This has been an event that in the past we've been trying to grow. I think we had about 100 people this past year. It covers non-motorized of all kinds, motorized. We try and cover every land manager. I think it's a really cool event. I think it also has a lot of potential for voluntourism to like draw people for their spring break trips to come to Moab to help. So that's an event that we'll probably cut next year without this position. But I think if we did want to do that event and assist with other volunteer management, this is probably what we need to make that happen. And then finally, I have this one highlighted because this is not included in the packet. But talking to Kelton, who's probably our OHG trail coordinator position next year, just talking to him about, having a slim budget next year, but also wanting to acknowledge that we're kind of starting a new program and that a little bit more money could help it have some legs for next year. So this would cover some equipment like a spare tire and a jack for the UTV. It could cover him going to the NOVAC conference, which is a national OHV conference that happens every year, which we cut out. But if we could put that back in, I think he would get a lot of benefit from it. We also don't have any materials budgeted specifically for motorized projects. We do get a lot of assistance from the BLM, but their budget, it's been in flux the last year or so. So if we're relying on them for materials, there's a chance they may not have them or be able to buy them. So it could be wise to set aside some funds so he has the ability to buy, posts. And then also we have $1,500 budgeted for a tool cache for him, which is grant funded. But our total desired tool cache would cost $4,500. So another $3,000 could also help him just have an inventory of tools for projects that he thinks he'll be working on next year. I think that's what I have. Any questions, especially thoughts or questions about my my requests for additions back in?
Oh, I guess my question was, how much do you have in that fund balance?
I think it's one 1.5.
I know.
prepared with that information.
I can tell you what
That's
how you
all remember.
That's okay. Sorry. Thank you. No, that you did an excellent job. Thank you. Thanks.
I'd say, I think moving the ambassadors over to a nonprofit for next year is a good move. Sounded like it was 12 positions that were potentially moving over there. So that's a decrease in salary, benefits, I'm assuming operating costs from that. But then is it what we're adding back in that still puts our budget at that, what was it, 99.76%?
You're talking about the overall increase in optional sales tax request?
So if you're on the budget tab, coming back down to, what would it be? Line 54. Budget 26 to 25, we're still at 99.76. Would we expect that number to be down a little bit more by relieving 12 positions from the department and moving them over, the operating costs and benefits associated with that?
Well, I would say unfortunately, no, because if we're just looking at the optional sales tax, the optional sales tax has never gone to fund the trail ambassadors. That's always been like the originally TRT and then back funded with general, what is it, general funds? So
I
basically,
think so.
the program, there's two programs, they had different revenue sources. So we're removing one program, we're also removing that revenue source. So then we're back to kind of just looking at the trail crew and optional sales tax, so there's not a whole lot of change.
I think that number that you're talking about, AJ, was unfunded under a different spot, so that cut or savings or however you want to look at it is gonna show up somewhere else, not in this budget the way it's laid out.
Yeah, correct. Sorry, just to follow up really quick, so you can see the screen I'm on, line 36. So this is 2025 budget, this is the total tax revenue, so this is the number right here I think you're looking for. So you can see this, 277,000, this is the optional sales request for 2025. And then this 372,000, this would be what is currently being paid out of the general fund. So this has all gone away. So if you're looking at like total cuts, that's why I'm saying, I mean, essentially it's like a 50% budget cut. If you're looking at that overall number.
My understanding is that you're basically looking for 23,000 more in optional sales tax this year than last year.
Yeah, for the,
From the county, that's kind of the.
that's the
Everything
major
else,
expense.
everything else pushed aside,
Yeah.
that you're looking for 23,000 more this year than last year.
Yeah, so if we're looking at just sort of our status quo operations, we did make a lot of cuts, to, yeah, I mean, trainings, travel, equipment, I mean, across the board. And then we did add in 23,000 for the, OHV coordinator benefits, salaries covered by grants.
What was that was added in right there? Sorry.
The,
My
the
next question,
OHV trail coordinator position benefits,
Okay, and that comes up to be how much you said?
$23,196.
So you got 23K that's getting added in benefits right there. Okay.
Correct. And then there are some additional expenses that I didn't actually put on here as new expenses, but like the truck, we need a truck also because we're gonna have this new position going out and doing motorized trail projects. And that's another $13,000.
Right.
So I didn't,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then I got one more
Yeah.
that you mentioned in there, and that would have been staff. You had an additional in there for staff. You said your three new big expenses were gonna be vehicles, staff, and then the OHV coordinator.
there's no new staff. We actually cut staff. We
That's why,
cut, well, we
that's why
cut
I was
two,
wondering
yeah.
why you said there was additional for staff right there.
I may have misspoke. I probably misspoke. What I think I intended to say is that one of our larger expenses that we can work with, right? Because we have staff expenses, but they're reimbursable. So if we cut another trail crew member, we don't really save any money because they're getting reimbursed.
I was trying to.
Yeah.
figure that out.
So kind of like the largest remaining expense is basically
Okay.
like my
So
position.
13,000 and then
Yeah.
for the vehicles and the 23,000 for the benefits that go to the OHV coordinator. And then Trish, to answer your question, it's 1.24 that's sitting in there for the optional sales tax.
Okay, thank you.
And then the fund balance has 81,000 for the ILA with the city.
That actually has been spent, I believe, as of this year,
Okay. It was,
or it should be expended.
Thanks, Brian.
I think the last time we worked together on that analysis was a few months ago, and so
Yeah.
it's possible there's an update.
yeah, that's what I had last that came through.
Perfect.
My next question that I have, if that's okay, Dave?
Yeah, of course,
Okay,
thank you.
cool. Is, there was mention of dropping the, what is it, spring spruce up
Mhm.
right there on that? And is the ILA with the city, is that connected to the spring spruce up? I remember reading somewhere, that's somewhere inside this budget. Is
Yeah.
that gonna affect that 33,000 right there?
Here, I'll go to expenditures. I'm gonna go down to the interlocal agreement section. So the way the interlocal agreement is written, I mean, it's to essentially support trail planning, development, maintenance, construction, and educational services. So it's written with kind of a broad scope. We've talked to them previously about the Spring Spruce Up event because a lot of those projects have been on city property, so it's like directly benefited the city. So we do have 4,000 here budgeted for the event. This is with the optimism that we can pull it off with our current staff. If not, like, there's nothing in our contract that says we have to do this event, so we would be talking to them about. If we couldn't do the spring spruce up, maybe we would be doing like other volunteer projects at like Robin Groff Park, which needs some work, or along the Parkway, or Pipe Dream as well. Pipe Dream has washed out the last few years, so that schedule does not have Pipe Dream on it, but we might be working on it. So this is in here because this is what the cost has been this year and last year to keep that in there. But we would talk to them about, yeah, if and how we would move it, or maybe they'd want to have a staff person assist with running it, and then that would still be the budget.
That, or one of the things that I was looking at, and this is gonna be a two-part question, is one is the priority additions list, is that in order of how you would like to see that? Is that your priority? Like, number one priority is woofer, and number two is traffic counters, is number three, the trail tech, and number six, or number five is gonna be the visitor, or volunteer coordinator? Is that the priority that you would see that as?
It is, with the exception of, I think that the one I have highlighted in yellow that's not in your packet, which is, I'm sorry, I didn't even fill this out, but it's the additional like materials, equipment for the OHV trail coordinator. I actually would probably put that first because I think we all want, we're investing it, we want to see it succeed.
And then just with that volunteer position, with that volunteer position right there, would that be able, do you think, to help out with the spring spruce up? Is that the major
Yeah.
component?
Yeah,
And then
so
would that possibly be a conversation that we could have with the city, since they're receiving so much benefit from this, that, hey, are you guys willing to fund this position right here?
yeah, we could certainly talk to them about that.
That's a good idea. Good idea.
Yeah, the 600 hours, this came from, I didn't put this in here as another breakout sheet, but we have, an annual schedule on like what projects they work in throughout the year. And so if we kind of had to balance the fiscal conservatism with like our main goals for that position, this is based on basically having someone work like 30 hours a week in the spring and then cutting the fall because spring spruce ups in the spring. And then we found just with hiring, if we're hiring someone at like 10 hours a week for the year, that's usually not really enough. People tend to not want to fill those positions, so.
And then a question back on that materials, what's the materials for non-motorized? What's the,
The total cost.
the expense on that?
So unfortunately, it's not a simple answer. So there's a lot of materials that are in these blue ones that are, tied to specific projects. Like this one I can tell you just because I know this is specifically signs that are on this grant. So if you're looking at just the cost of supplies that aren't tied to a particular grant project, in the this year, I believe we asked for 5,500. For next year, we asked for 4,000.
And that's for that one grant right there.
This is for materials that are unassociated with any grant.
Okay,
Yeah, so this is just straight, we're asking the county to pay for the post hardware, logs, working like gloves, all that.
Mhm.
And then all of these other ones that are in these categories that are the brighter blue. A lot of these do include materials, right? Like here's one for rebar. But these are all tied to like specific grant projects and they're grant funded.
And that's 4,500, you said right there, right?
4,000.
4,000.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And we did cut that down, so that'll be, we'll see, like, if we end up regretting that we did that.
I got another question as a board member and just curious member of the public. It's the big chunk that we had last year and we've got again this year for the Spanish Valley Drive pathway. Is that going to be on next year too, or what is the plan for using that grant and building that path?
You wanna answer that, Gabe?
Or maybe, or Bill, maybe?
2027 is the current estimated project completion, is my understanding.
Yeah, we're currently in the process of acquiring the easements and the land right away. And I think the biggest problem is right there in the area of Packard Wholesale and getting that trail up to the top of the hill and actually all the way out to Arroyo. Because a lot of those yards, we're gonna be moving right into the front of some of those houses, and I don't know, I haven't had an update in a while. As to how we hired a firm to acquire that land and easements through there, and we're paying one by one property owner up through there, and that's a process that we're in the middle of, and it's a slow one.
We've been trying AJ, via, I think it was Bill's request to do pretty much updates every commission meeting on it. So, yeah, it's coming.
Cool. Is that technically a piece? Is it a piece of the trail that runs along the road at Arroyo Crossing right there? Would that technically be a piece of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah, I think one thing too that I've learned, and I will share. Like it seems like when there's uncertainty about project timelines, trying to just budget the whole amount for the next year, so that way. If the project moves forward faster than expected, you're able to spend it all without doing like a formal budget amendment. But then if you don't complete it, it's not necessarily like impacting anything. I did that also for the. Let's see, oh, not that one. Line 66, so this is the Mud Springs Phase 2. It's maybe a little bit similar in that we're at the early phases of planning this project, and so we're not sure how fast it's gonna go, so I did budget the whole amount to be spent in case we get lucky. If we don't, we won't be spending that, so there won't be the expenditure, we won't be requesting the reimbursement, it's just that one-to-one expense reimbursement, so there's no consequences if we underspend.
And that's another reason why the scale of the budget doesn't show a dramatic decrease from last year, because there's this inclusion of that. For example, that large expenditure that wasn't included in the previous year's budget,
Yeah.
but is completely offset by revenue, by grant revenue.
Yeah. I guess I'd be remiss to say, or not to just point out too, like. This says grants agreements, it also includes that interest, I was having trouble like fitting it onto here without it getting cut off. But basically this blue is everything that's, coming in through grants, through interlocal agreements, interest. Am I forgetting anything? Donations as well. I should really point out that we have a lot of partnerships. Like for the Spring Spruce Up event and our volunteer appreciation event, we get thousands and thousands of dollars from local businesses. I think last year it was like $15,000 donated in just like gift cards and stuff to give out to folks. Bike shops specifically also allow the Moab Trails Alliance, which is a nonprofit, to sell maps for the trail systems in the bike shops. They don't take a cut of that at all, and then that all goes, that ends up as a donation to support us as well. So there's a lot of kind of like community input too to help fund us. And then this smaller piece here, this is the optional sales tax. So there's no general fund, there's no TRT. It's just optional sales tax request for next year. And then everything else is covered by those categories.
Excellent. You
Thank
did a
you.
great job. And you would be mortified by my Excel skills.
Well, the downside, I mean, it's nice to have all these as reference when you're trying to remember why you did stuff, but then the downside is if you make a mistake anywhere,
Right.
I think I had to like redo this like 3 times, I kept finding stuff.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you all very much. It's 11:13 a.m. and I will adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
Before we go public, we're going to